What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, gonna be talking about Immortal X-Men number 15, written by Kieran Gillen, with art by Paco Medina, and color by David Curiel. So this issue, the real big thing that I thought was really interesting here was just that we're getting more and more Exodus in this. This is Exodus Appreciation Day in this issue, even though he doesn't feature quite as heavily in it, but we get more information on what Exodus is doing as far as him trying to lead the people through the desert of what is effectively only been referred to as nowhere and no when. This kind of leads more to a deeper theory that I'm going to bring up here just a little bit later, but what I will just say is I don't think that the mutants that were displaced at the Hellfire Gala that Exodus is leading, the some 250,000 plus mutants that Exodus is leading through this desert, I don't think they actually went to another place on the planet Earth, and I don't believe they're even anywhere on Araco. They're not anywhere on any planet that would be recognizable at first to any reader. But what I do think is, on top of them not knowing exactly where they are, and also the idea of not knowing when they are, I feel like they've been teleported to some sort of a alternate reality. Like, well, by and large, we know that the Krakoan gates, they are able to take a person any place that they desire to go as long as there's a gate on the other side. However, I feel like this place is something different. And I say that because with everything going on with Exodus, as he's leading these people, he is literally performing messianic feats that are just amazing, which, by the way, I love how, I think this is, since the House of X era, I think this is the second, maybe possibly third time that someone has actually referenced Jesus being a mutant, at least as far as the House of X era goes. I know it's been done on multiple occasions prior to House of X, but like this is like, I think one of the more direct moments where they kind of say it but don't necessarily say it. It's kind of funny. That said, yeah, a guy that can walk on water, turn bread to wine, can transmute things. Yeah, of course, in comic book parlance, yeah, that dude's a mutant most likely. But yeah, the idea that Exodus is literally using his telekinetic power, which, by the way, just in case anyone forgot, Exodus is an Omega level telekinetic. He has been able to pull all of the water vapor from across the land that they are in to create pools of water for people to drink. And while it's not enough to quench all 250,000 some odd mutants' thirst, it is a lot, and that is a massive feat, something that is just insane to even think about. But while all this is going on, this desert they're walking through, they're being hounded by something, and it's Wolverines. Now, these Wolverines, initially when I saw this, I thought that this was the Wolverines that we last saw in Wolverine number 35, the clones of Wolverine that Beast had created that had gotten away when the Weapons of X base was destroyed. That ain't the case. These are not those Wolverines, and well, I say that because, for one, these Wolverines are 4 in number when we first see them, not 3 as what was left behind in Wolverine number 35. Not only that, they're not the only Wolverines that we see. We do actually end up seeing yet another one later. So these are not the same Wolverines. Don't go thinking that these are the clone Wolverines that escaped the Weapons of X base. These are something else. And not only that, they're seemingly being led by Apocalypse. I don't think this is actually Apocalypse proper either. I don't believe that's the case. The Apocalypse I think we're seeing here is an alternate reality version, a time displaced version of Apocalypse, if you will, which kind of lends me more in the direction of this being some kind of an alternate reality world that they have been dropped on, or some weird way station between realities that they've been dropped into, a purgatory, if you will. But the real question I know a lot of people are gonna be asking is why I would think this is a different Apocalypse. And well, one of the main reasons, once again, this is low-hanging fruit here, but because the Apocalypse we see return in X-Men Red doesn't look the same as this version of Apocalypse. For those that don't know, the solicits have revealed Apocalypse is going to be returning, and I'm pretty sure it's not the same guy. This guy also seems to have access to not just Wolverines on tap, but also Phoenixes on tap. He has a version of Jean Grey under his control that he has chained up no differently than his Wolverine hounds. This is Apocalypse, who seems to function, at least in terms of, how he does things, almost more like an Ahab, if you will. For those who are unfamiliar with the character of Ahab, Ahab was a hunter of mutants who used mutants, which he would refer to as his hounds, to catch other mutants. Now, to address another point, this is something I actually talked about on Twitter, X, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I guess for the sake of this, we'll call it X, because we're talking about X-Men. But there's a line that's brought up in this comic that I will definitely say, and I want to make sure I clarify this for other people, because I made this mistake when I mentioned on Twitter. Other people said they also misread this and made the mistake. There's a point where they're talking about the logistics of how the mutants are, keeping themselves alive, sustaining their own lives in the desert, which, by the way, it has not been easy for them, even with having mutants who have powers that could help facilitate them being able to survive longer in the desert. The idea being that when it came to the prospect of water, we already know Exodus has been taking care of that. But we also know mutants, just like normal humans, they have to eat. And unless they have a power that dictates otherwise, then yeah, that's a thing. There's a point in this comic where they talk about how there were generative mutants that they were using to fulfill and supply food for all of the 250,000 plus. And when I first read that, I initially misread it. I'm not gonna lie. It happens sometimes. Sometimes you're reading something, you're just like, oh wow, that was a thing. And then you realize, ooh, no, it wasn't. I misread the part where you were supposed to be hitting that like button. You were supposed to hit that like button and let YouTube know where you enjoy getting your comic book content from. I also misread the part where you forgot to hit that subscribe button, as well as tap the notification bell so you can get more videos like this breaking down X-Men, as well as other comics from Marvel and DC and wherever else. You forgot to do it. And you know what? I swear to God, I misread it. And now that I'm reading it now, you've done it. So, we're all good now. But no, in all seriousness, the part I misread was the section where when they talked about generative mutants, I misread generative as regenerative. I don't know what was going on there, but for whatever reason, my mind just simply perceived generative as regenerative. So where my mind immediately went next was, oh my God, the mutants are eating each other. That's not the case. And just in case anyone else made the same mistake I did, but just didn't catch it, I'm here to tell you, no, they're not eating each other. What they're referring to is mutants who have abilities like, and they even say it in a page almost immediately after, where we see a mutant mentioning that they are creating glucose and other natural forms of food supplements and things like that for people to eat. So yeah, that's what they're talking about. They're not cutting up Wolverines and Deadpools and things of that nature and serving them up like
for spicy meat. Yeah, boy.
They're not doing that at all. Now, one thing we do know that is actually pretty useful here is that Mother Righteous makes a return in this issue, which she has apparently been sent to the same place as everyone else. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's safe to say Mother Righteous is lying through her damn teeth, because that's what she does. She lies a lot. She talks about how she resisted. She didn't resist. At least if she did, it wasn't depicted in the Hellfire Gala issue. When everyone was supposedly resisting Xavier's telepathic command to walk through the gates, that was the moment when she actually was just walking around as if nothing was going on, and immediately it's stolen Krakoa's Atlantic Island. It is safe to say, yeah, maybe she did actually resist and it wasn't just done in a way that would have been obvious to anyone, because she would not know Charles's red triangle protocol. So of course, maybe she has her own way. She has magic. She has many different ways of resisting telepathic manipulation, most likely, but still, I am of the belief that Mother Righteous is lying through her teeth when she says that she, quotey fingers, resisted and went through the gate just like everyone else. She is there by design, because you have to remember, she knows everything that's going to happen. She has an entire library full of books that detail everything that is ever going to occur. And she's just using that information and putting herself in the places where she needs to be. Now, that said, she also just so happens to be right where the mutants need her most, because what does Mother Righteous feed off of? She feeds off of faith and belief and thanks, not too dissimilarly from Exodus. Exodus thrives on faith. And if Mutantkind is lost in the desert, they are completely rudderless, they have no direction, nowhere to go, and suddenly a woman appears from out of nowhere, having a veritable oasis that she could just drop right then and there in front of everyone in the form of the Krakoa Atlantic Island, I think that would actually get her a lot of thanks. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what she planned on doing when she took the island during the Hellfire Gala 2023 one-shot. I had no idea what it was she planned to do with it. I figured she would just let this whole thing just ride out for a few months. But no, she just throws that bad boy down like it's the big Joker and goes on about her business. But yes, she did all this because 250,000 mutants desperate for shelter, desperate for food, desperate for just something to happen, a miracle of some sort. That's a lot of thanks. Now, another thing that comes up with Mother Righteous in this is that she is revealed to be a mutant. And I don't think that's the case either. There's a point where Hope brings up, like, when she checks to see if she has an X gene, she uses her power to sync her X gene with Mother Righteous, see if she can borrow any power from her. And as it turns out, Hope recognizes that she does have some manner of X gene, but it's nothing that is terribly active. She refers to it even as something that's similar to Legion, how Legion has so many different random and various powers based on what personality he has at the time. But the real truth of it is that Mother Righteous has cut so many different deals with so many different characters, and we've also seen her steal power from each of the different people that, you know, she has made deals with, where initially it seemed like she maybe took their soul, and that is how she's giving off the impression of having a mutant X gene, when in fact she really doesn't. Because, and I want to make sure I point out something here, is that of all the Sinister clones, only Sinister proper was supposed to be the one with an X gene. So yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, she's lying through her teeth. So yeah, don't believe her. Now, the last thing I wanted to bring up, I kind of enjoyed seeing this. Charles is so distraught, and we know this to be the case because in Hellfire Gala 2023 one-shot, he told Rogue to avenge all the mutants that he believed were killed. And while that is definitely something to, you know, be angry about, the Hellfire Gala 2023 event had shaken Charles to his core, and rightfully so. Also gotten to the point where the last time we saw Charles, he was looking pretty damn rough. If I do say so myself, he was on hard times. Charles was down bad in ways that I don't think we've ever seen Charles look before. And now, you know, he looks a little bit better. He's gotten his beard fully in. He doesn't look too terribly rough. However, Charles is so far gone in his disillusionment with the Krakoan dream. He is now breaking Krakoa's second rule. Charles is killing people, and brutally, I might add, because as we learn in this issue, the Orcus agents he's been going up against, they now have more expensive, more high-tech versions of psi dampeners that can protect them from people as powerful as Charles. But even with that, something that is brought up in this issue, and this is something I think a lot of people have forgotten about, is that Charles Xavier, historically speaking, has never really been the strongest telekinetic. And it's something that I feel like, you know, there are some X-Men historians who will tell you Charles never had the ability of telekinesis, and there are others who will probably tell you that there have been instances like sprinkled throughout his history where he is seemingly hinted at having telekinesis or has used it in some small minor way. But Charles's telekinesis is much stronger than what it ever was, and kind of became more of a thing that we saw him regularly use during the House of X era. For those wondering, look no further than the character Cassandra Nova. Cassandra Nova, who is the Quotey Fingers twin sister of Charles Xavier. She was the twin sister that he had killed in the womb. She has all of Charles Xavier's powers, both the ones he currently has and any potential power he may have. If you go all the way back to Grant Morrison's new X-Men, it becomes pretty obvious Charles always had the capacity for telekinesis. He just never realized it. That said, this is something that comes up here because this is how he is able to rip the Orcus soldiers to shreds. He's not doing it with his bare hands. He's using his telekinesis, which seems to have gotten even stronger since House of X #1. All in all, this issue was solid, and yeah, there's some other things that people are probably gonna be like, oh, why are you not talking about Selene and the external gate, and that's largely because I already talked about it with the previous issue of the Immortal X-Men with Immortal X-Men number 14. I brought it up. I said that, yeah, she wants the external gate, and I think it's safe to know why. I've slept since then. I don't remember if I actually mentioned her wanting to revive the other externals, but I'm pretty sure reviving the externals is the most obvious thing she could ever do with it, and that's something that comes up in this issue. And if you're wondering why she would want to, well, I mean, she does mention that she's sentimental in some respects to the externals, regardless of how she feels about them personally. But having several very powerful mutants, owe you, there you go. That's everything I wanted to talk about with Immortal X-Men number 15. If you enjoyed this video, do the YouTube thing, like, share, comment, subscribe, and make sure you tap that notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any of the videos I put out. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, let me know what you thought about Immortal X-Men number 15. Keep it plus ultra, and sound off in the comments.